Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. So if you're writing a book to tell the story of your business, or you simply want a new book and you know you should publish in order to gain new clients and customers, go to booksgrowbusiness.com. Joining me on this segment is Shane Borza from Shane Borza Coaching. Welcome to the program, Shane.
Thanks, Mark. I'm so excited to be here. It's great to meet you.
Shane, tell us a little bit about your particular business and specifically the types of folks that you help.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. I coach people both individually and in groups. And the people that I'm looking at most connecting with are people that I always like to say, they know what to do, but they're just not doing it. And so they're looking for someone to come in as an expert to not only guide them with that external kind of perspective, but also hold them accountable for action. Because we're all smart people, we're all reading and taking classes, we all have a lot of information, but unless someone's there to really make sure we actually engage in some way of change, nothing actually happens. So I'm not interested in someone who doesn't want to do the work. I'm not interested in someone who doesn't want to show up. I want to help the person who's trying but hasn't been able to do it thus far.
What have been the roadblocks that you see, the things that stop people in their tracks from taking action? What do you see most common?
A couple things. First is quite often we're stuck in a story or kind of a loop, and it's kind of a habit or a pattern that we default to. And most people don't realize that, I tried something, it didn't work. And then those patterns start to come up. Oh, well, I can't really do it anyway, or I'm never going to really succeed, or that's not for me. So I think the first thing is for people to recognize that those things are limiting them and identify what they are and kind of, do some deep work and figure out why does that come up for me every time? And then the second thing is quite often it's a goal or a to-do list that they've gotten out of a magazine or a book that they heard on a talk show. And those are usually the kind of most common denominator type of program. And it's not something that's customized for them. And we all have unique lives. And it's great to say, yeah, exercise, eat right, meditate, your life will be great. But you really need to tailor it for that person. And that's why working one-to-one with someone is so helpful.
Shane, do you work mostly local? Where are you in the country? Or do you work with people all across the country or even internationally?
Yes, I do have a couple international clients. Most of my clients are scattered all over the place. I do live in the Las Vegas area, but I actually have no clients from Nevada. So I do have people East Coast, but I have a client in Alaska, actually. And so it's interesting to see how people have been affected by the pandemic and being stuck at home and working on Zoom, because I actually have only worked with clients long distance and haven't had any face-to-face. So in that regard, to me, this is normal.
I definitely want to talk about the effects of the pandemic in a moment, but first I have a very curious question. As you mentioned, I can relate to the fact that I have a lot of clients myself that are completely out of Illinois, and I'm in the suburbs of Chicago. How are clients finding you, that they find you from everywhere but your own hometown?
Well, initially a few years ago when I started, it was all word of mouth. Friends of friends, people would refer me. But now I'm getting a lot of connections through LinkedIn, and I think that's probably the biggest way that I'm connecting with people that I don't know or that are new areas.
You mentioned you had some very specific experience, like in filmmaking. Can you give us specific examples of the types of clients that you help, and what different business categories are you getting clients from? And then tell us a little bit about the filmmaking experience and how you help those folks.
Yeah, of course. Well, I have a friend of mine who's a coach, and she's predominantly a photographer, but she has done some corporate videos and things like that because she's a creative. And so we worked together earlier this year because her dream has always been to make a dramatic film and submit it to a festival and have a real movie instead of, a commercial type movie for a client. And she's like, I don't know how to do that. I know how to do my version, but I don't know how to do a real movie. So we sat down and went through the structure of how do you move from where you are to where you want to go, even though it's in a similar wheelhouse. And that was really helpful for her. And I would say that one of the things that's been a really good carryover from doing just indie film work for almost 20 years like I have is knowing that, it might take years to write a script, raise some money, get some people interested, make the film, edit the film, get the film out. So it's long-term goals. And big projects, especially that require a lot of moving parts and a lot of people, there's a lot of systems there that you need to learn how to finesse. And that is applicable to all the other parts of our lives, whether it's family dynamics or work. You have a big launch that you're going to do in your company. That's putting a lot of those systems together and figuring out how do we go from the conception of the idea to it's out in the marketplace, just like a movie. So I found that bringing in that kind of film background is actually really helpful to a lot of people.
That's really fascinating. And now to bring us to that point you mentioned earlier, the pandemic. How did that initially affect you, your business, your clients? Like, did the phone stop ringing, or what exactly happened when the whole country shut down?
Well, it's interesting because there's that old expression, like it's kind of like a curse almost, like may you live in interesting times. So I had a corporate job for about 10 years. And the end of last year, I decided, okay, I've had this side hustle coaching business for a couple of years now. I'm going to commit to this is the full-time thing. I'm going to step away from the day job. So I did that at the beginning of the year. And I just got the company started and the website and the paperwork and everything. And then the pandemic happened like 3 months in. And so that was a huge shift because initially that panic came up of, oh no, what am I going to do? I had this job, I had benefits. And actually I found that by living that myself, it really helped me to engage with my clients and the fears and those patterns that were coming up for them. But it also enabled me to have the ability to move from strict life coaching to offering mentoring services and then consulting with some companies, all of which I hadn't done previously. So by being flexible, by kind of tuning into what was coming up for me and also allowing myself to see opportunities, I was able to kind of move into these new areas that I hadn't been before. And now I have this much stronger, more diverse offering for people.
As a result of the pandemic now, when people are reaching out to you these days, are the conversations different? Are the concerns different? What are you hearing different than what you may have in the past?
Well, I think the biggest shift that I've heard in people is there is this sense of connection and how important it is for them now. I think a lot of the things that we had before, a year ago, beginning of this year, people took all that for granted, just going out for drinks after work or meeting someone for a coffee or just all this kind of casual interaction has mostly gone away as many of us are now at home all the time. But also that means you're in the house with whoever you live with so much more than you were before. And all those little interactions are much more challenged. So a lot of those connections, either the things they're missing or the things that are coming up that they, it's easy to kind of gloss over some of those relationship issues when you don't really spend any time with your partner until the end of the day. But when you're with them 24 hours a day for 6 months, those things tend to really rear their head. And so that has been the biggest change.
Shane, you mentioned like work, having that full-time job and doing coaching as a side gig now, trans kind of transferring into full-time work. Tell us, give us a bigger picture now. What inspired you to do this full-time? What inspired you to get into coaching even as a side hustle to begin with? What got you started?
Well, when I was younger, I've been a mountain athlete and a climber my whole life. So I call myself a climber, a creator, and a coach. And being out in the wilderness has always been very impactful. And so I got into guiding. I was a trainer, worked at a climbing gym. I taught ropes courses. So I was in what you would deem like outdoor education for about 20 years. So I never taught in the classroom, but I always had groups of teams or people that I was teaching. And mostly that was through the, physical realm, like using your body, learning skill sets, things like that. Later, I got a master's and became a manager, worked at a corporation. And that was more the, kind of skill sets, not the physical stuff. And so I always wanted to find a way to say, how can I bring the body stuff and the mind stuff kind of together? And so when I heard about life coaching, I said, oh, I think this might be the way for me to take these two specialties that I have, merge them together, and then really it's still teaching. It may be a class of one, but I'm helping someone to learn and to grow. And so that's kind of where it started from like 20 years ago and slowly morphed into what I'm doing today.
Right on. Shane, before I ask you my last question, is there anything I didn't think about asking that you'd like to share with our listeners? regarding your line of work, or any motivation or anything you can give to the audience?
Well, one of the things that's been most impactful to me in the last few years is adapting gratitude practice. And I think that could be in a number of different ways. It's just like diet or exercise, it's what works best for you. So maybe it's praying every day, or meditating every day, or just doing some mindful breathing. But that few minutes I do it at the end of the day of just kind of reflecting on the things I'm thankful for. It has been not only a great stress reliever, but it's enabled me to reframe some of the challenges I have as opportunities.
That's sage advice. Shane, for our listeners out there that would be interested in connecting with you, how do they find you?
The easiest thing to do is go to my website, shaneborza.com, and Borza is Borza, or they can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to have a conversation, see if there's a way that I could help them. Again, I think there's a lot of people who are trying to do stuff. They just haven't figured out how to do it yet. So if we would be a good fit, then I'd love to help you accomplish your goals.
That's terrific. Shane, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and clients to share with my audience today. I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Great. Thanks so much, Mark. And I hope you and yours are all safe and well.
This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. We're celebrating the release of Post-Pandemic Profits, Keys to Thriving in the Face of Adversity, now available on Amazon, Kindle, and other great bookseller platforms. If you have a business and you're looking, you know that you should publish a book to gain more clients, or you simply want to tell your business story, go to booksgrowbusiness.com. That's all for now. Join me on my next expert spotlight coming soon. I'm Mark Imperial. Take care.